Hello, dear learners. This is a series on Dalit literature. This is lecture 1, which deals with the basics of Dalit literature. I am Dr. Shaily and I have a PhD in English. In PhD, my topic was Dalit literature, specifically Dalit autobiographies. This series is an attempt to provide a systematic understanding of Dalit literature and make it as inclusive as possible. So, if you are also thinking of doing your PhD, your research in this area, then this video is going to be very helpful for you. This video is the introductory lecture on Dalit and Dalit literature. By the end of the video, you will be able to answer these questions. Who is a Dalit? How and when did the term originate? What was the Varna system? Who were the Shudras? Are Shudras and Dalits different or same? And then in the end, I will provide a proper definition of a Dalit. And there is much more in this video, so please watch the video till end. We are about to start our understanding of Dalit literature. So it is very important to understand the word Dalit and what are its present connotations, how it has originated. There are two ways that we can understand its meaning. The first is its textual meaning, and the second is its contextual meaning. Basically, Dalit is a word which has Sanskrit root dal. Dal means to crush, to split, to break down, to suppress. And it is a verb. When we turn it into an adjective, it becomes Dalit. So, something that has been broken down, something that has been suppressed, crushed, split, that is a Dalit. And that is why this particular word has found similarity with the oppressed masses of India, who were called the Untouchables or Achutas or Asprishas of India. For the very first time, this was used by Jyotiba Phule in 1880s. And also some say that it was first used by Shripad Mahadev Mate. He was also a Marathi professor and he used the word Pad Dalit. Ambedkar, who is the pioneer of Dalit movement in India, he also used the term Dalit Bahujan. But it was mainly popularized by Dalit Panthers movement in the 1972, which was started by people like J.V. Pawar, Namdev Dasal. And this Dalit Panthers movement took inspiration from the Black Panthers movement that was happening against racism in Africa. In Hindu social system, there is a fourfold Varna system, which is the basis of its society. And this is how Hindus had segregated their society into four Varnas. The first was Brahmin, which was the priestly class, the priests. Second was Kshatriya, the warrior, the king, the ruler, the people who went on war. And Vaishya. Vaishyas were the merchants. Shudras, the fourth Varna, they were the peasants and artisans. These three Varnas, Brahmin, Kshatriya and Vaishya, according to the scriptures, in the beginning there were only three Varnas. Shudras were created later and Untouchables, they were not inside this Varna system. So who are Dalits actually? They were earlier known as Untouchables. Untouchable is Achutas and now we call them ex-untouchables because according to the constitution, we can say that yes, untouchability is not in practice, at least in writing. They were also called Avarna. Avarna means not of any color. Outcast, out of the caste system. Atishudra, below the Shudra. And Panchama. Panchama means the fifth color. Supreme Court of India does not approve of this term's official use because they have already given these classes a name, which is scheduled caste. Barbara R. Joshi, a prominent critic, says Dalit has become a positive, assertive expression of pride, an untouchable heritage, and a rejection of oppression. In this particular definition, two things are important. First is positive, that Dalit is not someone who is negative, who is not just a rebel, but it is a positive and assertive expression of pride in which people take pride by calling themselves Dalit. They do not accept this oppression anymore. The next is Gangadhar Pantamne, and he was a Marathi professor and an Ambedkar thinker. He said Dalit is not a caste. Dalit is a symbol of change and revolution. Here, Gangadhar Pantamne speaks very metaphorically, and he actually talks about the feeling of being a Dalit. And he says that he is not just a caste, it is the symbol of change and revolution. Dalit is a person who asks for revolution, for change in society and its oppressive measures. The third definition is by Ghanshyam Joshi, again a very prominent critic of Dalit literature, and he says it refers to those who have been broken, ground down by those above them in a deliberate way. So, in a deliberate means in a forceful way, knowingly, they have been broken down so that they would get free service. Then he says, there is in the word itself an inherent denial of pollution, karma, and justified caste hierarchy. Again, there is a denial. They deny the concept of pollution, that they are polluted. They deny this karma theory, which says that you are born as an untouchable because of the deeds you have done in your previous life. And they also deny this justified caste hierarchy, that everyone is below the other class or caste. So they deny this caste hierarchy as well. Next is another very important writer who has written more than 40 books. He is Sharan Kumar Limbale, and he is the author of Akkarmashi and Outcast. He is also known for his landmark work towards an aesthetic of Dalit literature, which is a very good book on Dalit literature and very inclusive one. You need to read that. I would provide its link in the description bar, definitely. He says Harijans and Neo Buddhists are not the only Dalits. The term includes all the untouchable communities living outside the boundary of village, as well as Adivasis, landless farm laborers, the suffering masses, and nomadic and criminal tribes. So here Limbale tries to be very inclusive in his definition of a Dalit. And he says that not only Harijans and Neo Buddhists, but also the Adivasis, those people who are branded by a criminal image, and those people who live outside the boundary of village. So he here tries to be very inclusive in his definition of Dalit, and he says that all these people, all the untouchable communities of India should come under this particular word Dalit. Now, what an untouchable looked like, do you know that what were the caste atrocities? Were they only mental or they were physical as well? A person is an untouchable, he would have to hang a pot around his neck. Let me get you the picture. See, there is a pot, there is a broom behind his back just to remove his footprints so that even the earth does not get polluted, so that the upper caste people could walk on that path. There would be a black thread around their neck or wrist, and it was this custom was there in Maharashtra. In Gujarat, there was a horn around their neck for clear identification, so that if an upper caste person sees that particular identification mark, the horn or the black thread, he would definitely know that this person is a lower caste and I am not supposed to touch that person. In Kerala, Dalit women were not allowed to cover their torso. Torso is your upper body. So they were not allowed to cover their upper body, and if they wanted to, they had to pay breast tax, which was called mulakaram. And it was not until 1859 that they were relieved from this breast tax. Even Dalit men had to pay head tax, which was called talakaram. So these simple things, these basic rights were not given to Dalits. They were not allowed to have decent names, decent pots in their houses, and it was written in different smritis like Manusmriti and so many other scriptures that a Dalit should not do this, and untouchable should wear this, and he should wear black clothes, he should have clay pots in his house, he should have, not very good names. So these were all these things. Are Dalits and Shudras similar or different? Shudras are considered as the Kshatriyas who were excommunicated and were denied the Upnayana Sanskar. Basically, there is a work, Who Were the Shudras, which was published in 1946 by B.R. Ambedkar, who dives deep into Vedic history and scriptures and said that those Kshatriyas who were in conflict with the Brahmins, they were excommunicated because the Brahmins were there to perform the rituals, and Brahmins and Kshatriyas, both these had a discord in power, and both were given similar rights as well. So these Brahmins, they denied their Upnayana Sanskar, and Upnayana Sanskar is very important because it gave a person right to education and other similar rights that a Varna person gets. And if you are not given this Upnayana Sanskara, it leads one to social degradation. And this is what happened with Shudras and Atishudras. They were not given Upanayana Sanskar. So here what happens is those people who were excommunicated, who were not given the Upanayana Sanskar, they came into this fourth Varna and they became artisans and peasants. Basically, their occupation was agriculture, trade, crafts, etc. And Dalits, on the other hand, they were assigned very menial jobs, like they had to burn the dead, they had to do sanitation work, leather work, manual scavenging, garbage collecting. All these works were done by the Atishudras. Now, there is one more very important term which is often in use. Sometimes people use it even today, but it is not widely accepted. It is the Harijans. So, Harijan means the people of God. It was coined by Narsin Mehta. He was a 15th century Gujarati poet saint and he was called the Adi Kavi of Gujarati literature, Gujarati language even. He is the first poet of Gujarati language and he used it for the devotees of Krishna, devoid of their caste and class, and he took everyone in. So he was a poet saint. Gandhiji was very much impressed by one of his bhajans, which was one of his favorite bhajans as well, Vaishnav Janto Tene Kahiye. And Gandhiji also took this particular term Harijan from his bhajans and used it for the untouchables of India. Though the untouchables of India, Dalits of India, found it very patronizing and they were not comfortable in calling themselves the children of God because it was again calling them into that filth from which they were trying to coming out. Now talking about the perfect segregation, the concept of purity and pollution is so much kept in their mind, in everyone's mind, that the caste rules were made so strict and there were so many different distancing segregations done. The first was mental distancing, and it was all based on the concept of purity and pollution. The untouchables were said to be polluting, their shadow was even polluting. They were considered to be impure souls. And purity was for upper caste people. To maintain the purity of their caste, a proper segregation was done. But we also see double standards here. First, the untouchables were not provided any education, and later on, they were called uneducated. They were not allowed to have decent names and wear good clothes, decent clothes, clean clothes, and then they were called dirty. The second is physical distancing. The upper castes were not supposed to touch any lower caste person or anything owned by that person. Thus, the pot is hung around their neck. Their touch was polluting, but not their money. The houses they built, the roads they made, it had their sweat, blood, and what not. But it was not polluting, but the touch of an untouchable. One was not allowed to marry outside his caste. A Brahmin can marry only a Brahmin, and it is very much followed because intercaste marriages often result in honor killing. But again, the double standards we see here is that though they marry in their own caste, but earlier the village patils used to have Dalit women as their keep. Untouchables lived outside the village, where all the garbage of the village is kept, and a very realistic picture of it, though it is very nauseous, is presented in Om Prakash Valmiki's Jutan, where he talks about that murky smell where all the pigs are breeding, and even the kids are playing, and there is all the human excreta and whatnot. Next is separate laws. Manusmriti is one of the books which have actually created separate laws for all the varnas. For the same crime, a Brahmin would be punished less and a Shudra would be killed for that. Manusmriti lays down such inhuman and barbarous punishments that one would tremble to do that to another person. At a place in Manusmriti, Manu says, if a Shudra listens to Ved mantras, hot oil should be poured down in his ear. And such very violent punishments are there mentioned, written down, and even were followed. Then the next is separate culture. The culture of women working outside their houses is the culture of Dalit women. And widow marriages was quite okay in Dalit societies. So all these separations, all these segregations were done in order to maintain just one thing, purity of the caste. Now, after understanding the condition of a Dalit in a society, where does he stand in society, we need to understand what Dalit literature does. Why are we here trying to study Dalit literature? First of all, it has never been represented. Before 20th century, it was nowhere in the literary canon. Even Limbale says that the servant who was working in the house all the time was never mentioned in any upper caste novel. Dalit literature has given voice to these voiceless people. These are the untouchables of India who were never represented in any Indian work. Now, Dalit literature has come out in the form of autobiographies, novels, poems, Dalit testimonials, Dalit feminist texts, which have come out very powerfully. They all bring out the realistic picture of all the oppression, atrocities that were done against them. And Dalit literature talks about the pain and agony of the untouchables of India. Now, coming to our last slide, in which I would try to break down what a Dalit is. When we speak the word Dalit, what kind of social and moral force comes? And Nimbalkar, a Dalit writer, writes that Dalit meant an untouchable in Chaturvarna, one who has been exploited socially, financially, religiously, culturally in the name of God and religion. So, 2 points are important. A Dalit has to be an untouchable, which means outside the Varna. One who is exploited in the name of God and religion. His exploitation has been justified in the name of God and religion. Third is for one for whom all the ways of progress have been closed. So no education, no change of occupation, and even they were not allowed to marry outside their caste and all the restrictions. Fourth is a Dalit is one who was refused the values of equality, freedom, fraternity, and justice. These untouchables were forced to live an animal like life. The treatment done to them was very much inhuman. And also, we need to incorporate other definitions into account, in which we see Gangadhar Pantavane earlier, where he says that Dalit is not a caste, it is about change, revolution. So, Dalit means someone who was broken down, but now it has come with great force. So, when we say Dalit, it comes with different ideas. When we say Dalit, it comes with Ambedkar ideology, it comes with an urge to rebel. So I guess you understood all the concepts very clearly. And in lecture number 2, we will deal with other aspects of Dalit literature. If you have any question in your mind, if you have any query, you can definitely write it down in the comment box below. Please write to me. I would really like it. And please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. It would really help me a lot. And soon there will be lecture number 2, because I told you that this is a lecture series. There are some references, the books which are very important if you wish to study Dalit literature further. And please like, share, and subscribe my video. Thank you so much.